This chapter is aimed at introducing computers, programming, compilers, algorithms, etc. to the users. Before we delve into the details of all these terms, let me ask you a funny question. What makes anything as a computer? That is, what are the essential components to call anything as a computer? 1. Central processing unit, which is often called as a processor. And then memory, that is random access memory. These are the two things which are essential to call anything as a computer. In this figure, you can see that a central processing unit, memory, and the buses which connects these things. A bus is a set of lines which connects two parts used for communication between one part to another part. You may see memory bus and also system bus. Bus, set of parallel lines which can be used to connect two devices. To be critically, a bus can be said as a set of parallel conductors which may connect two electronic components. The processor contains the arithmetic logic unit, the control unit. In addition, it contains a set of registers which are relatively very fast compared to even RAM also. However, the number of registers in a processor are usually limited.
RAM is also called as main memory, primary memory, real memory, physical memory, or simply memory, or volatile memory. This is made up of elementary memory devices known as flip-flops.
In addition to the CPU and the RAM, a typical computer contains other parts also, such as hard disk drives, CD-ROM drives, monitor, keyboard, modem, etc. You can verify in the figure a disk drive with disk controller, a monitor with a graphic adapter, and a mouse with a USB controller. Thus, these devices also can work together with the computer. These are all normally termed as peripheral devices. That is, they are add-ons only. We do have computers without monitor. We do have computers which works only by pen. There is no keyboard for them, like PDAs. The personal digital assistants, they use pen as an input device, no keyboard at all. Still, there are some computers which uses voice. So you can control the computer using your words. You need not require to enter data from the keyboard. So that way, we should say that these are all not compulsory. The following is the figure of a watch computer. With this, you don't have any big monitor or keyboard. Thus, we can say that computers can be there without monitor and keyboard also. This figure shows a sample PDA, Personal Digital Assistant. Here, with pen we can operate the computer. Thus, we need not require any keyboard with this one. Of course, they may have some facility to add keyboard if it is needed, but however, keyboard is not necessary. Thus, in practice, we may find computers without monitors. We may find computers without keyboards, etc. Thus, monitor, keyboard, etc. are not compulsory. They are all add-ons. They are all peripherals. In order to call anything as a computer, which I have already mentioned, that the processor and RAM are the ones which are compulsory. Typically, all these devices, they can communicate with the processor. Whenever they wanted some service from the processor, they send a signal known as interrupt. Then the processor can give service for them. Some of them, they function with the help of DMA, Direct Memory Access, which is a technology which makes the system little more efficient. In the figure, you may find a colored arrow which indicates data transfer from the disk controller to the CPU. In order to call anything as a computer, which I have already mentioned, that the processor and RAM are the ones which are compulsory. Typically, all these devices, they can communicate with the processor. Whenever they wanted some service from the processor, they send a signal known as interrupt. Then the processor can give service for them. Some of them, they function with the help of DMA, Direct Memory Access, which is a technology which makes the system little more efficient. In the figure, you may find a colored arrow which indicates data transfer from the disk controller to the CPU.
Registers are the fast memory units in any processor. Do remember that memory, that is RAM, is not inside the processor, rather it will be on the motherboard. Typically, a program contains variety of instructions to transfer data between processor registers and memory or peripherals. In the following slides, we shall brief some typical instructions which involves processor registers and memory.
In practice, computer employs variety of data transfers, maybe from one register to another register, which are available in the processor itself, maybe a register to a memory word, that is from register to RAM and vice versa, and also maybe a register to a device controller. So thus we have variety of instructions available with computers. We wanted to just give a little feeling how actual data transfer takes place. What are the steps involved? For example, let us consider a typical instruction, assembly language instruction. Move A, percentage EAX. Usually, in practical computers, the registers are referred with some symbolic names. EAX is a register name of a typical processor, such as RISC processor. A is some memory location, that is the RAM location. Move L, that indicates that move data transfer. We have to transfer between whatever available at the memory location A to the register EAX. In order to do this one, first the processor has to place the address of A, that is the memory location A. Where is there? Where is it in the memory? Where is A is situated? That is, rather I say A is the address, memory location information. That location information is kept on the bus, which makes system to select the memory location of our interest. In the figure, we have shown a colored arrow to indicate that while selecting A, the data transfer takes place between the processor and the RAM. Now, whatever available at the memory location A in the RAM, that will be transferred from the bus to the interface unit. From that interface unit, the data will be transferred to the register EAX. Thus, the execution of the instruction move A percentage EAX involves this type of sub-operations, that is, placing the address on the address bus such a way that the memory location will be selected, and then reading the data at that memory location and transferring to the interface unit, and then from that interface unit data will be transferred to the register of our interest. Now let us try to understand how a data transfer takes place between the register to the RAM. That is, we wanted to transfer whatever it is available in a register to RAM. For example, the same can be done really in a typical processor with the following type of instruction, that is, move percentage EAX, A. Here, EAX indicates the register whose data we wanted to write into the memory. A is the memory location. Here also, you may find that first the memory location into which the data to be written has to be selected. Thus, on the address bus, first A location information is kept. Thus, a particular memory location will be selected for writing, and then the data transfer takes place, and then the data whatever it is available in the register EAX is first transferred to the interface unit. From that, it will be further transferred to the memory via the bus. Thus, we may find this type of data transfers also takes place between the registers and the memory. So like this, we have variety of data transfer statements at the low level, the instruction level. Basically, the processor supports this type of instructions. The following figures demonstrates how a data transfer takes place between the peripheral devices such as hard disk and the processor. We understood that a typical computer contains processor and random access memory. These are the two essential components. And other peripheral devices, these are all optionals. And we did indicate how really data transfer takes place between the memory and the processor, and also the processor and other peripheral devices. To run any program, it has to be loaded into memory. Then instruction after instruction, the instructions are fetched from the memory to the processor, that is to the registers of the processor, and then the instructions will be executed by the arithmetic logic unit with the help of the control unit. This is repeated till the end of the program is encountered. Mind it, when an instruction is executed, the results are normally available first in the registers, and then they will be saved to the memory, that is RAM also, because the number of registers available in a computer are limited. That is the reason why results of a typical instruction, they will be stored back again into the RAM. This is the nature of the computation, and this is how all the computers works. This style of computation, that is one processor and one RAM module, a program gets loaded into RAM, then executing one instruction after another till the end of the program, it is called as serial computing or sequential computing or von Neumann computing. Von Neumann is a person who designed the style of computing. However, unfortunately, in the history of computer science, somehow I feel that he did not get proper credit. Anyway, it's not the time to discuss more about him. So this type of computers are called as serial computers, sequential computers, or von Neumann computers. Mind it, here there will be one processor and one RAM module, and instruction after instruction, the instructions will be executed.
According to von Neumann architecture, a computer contains a CPU and a RAM module. Whereas according to Harvard architecture, a computer will be having a CPU, a RAM module and a cache memory. Cache memory is faster device than RAM. Thus, recently read instructions, data are stored in cache memory such that next time if the same are needed they will be read from cache memory instead of RAM memory in von Neumann architecture. Thus, our program gets executed efficiently, that is fastly.
However, there are some special category of computers known as parallel computers. Of course, it's a misnomer, wrongly people call supercomputers. But however, mind it that a parallel computer may not be necessarily a supercomputer. And also, a supercomputer may not be necessarily parallel computer also. However, usually the parallel computers are designed for application of supercomputing. The most important aspect here is there will be more than one processor. Instead of one processor, more than one processor and more than one RAM module. Then the program will be executed simultaneously on these processors. Remember, in the recent years or recent months, you are seeing advertisements about Intel dual core processor. AMD has announced quad core processor. Now, I think within another 2 years or so, Intel is going to release 80 core processor. So, in one IC, we may find more than one CPU. I am talking in a layman way. Thus, a program can be executed in the fastest possible manner. Just to give you a feeling of what is meant by serial computing and what is meant by parallel computing, let me take a simple example. Let us assume that today I conduct an objective test. Then all of you will write the answers. Then I will collect the answer sheets. How do I evaluate? I can evaluate on my own. So I will take one answer sheet. Then I will correct question number 1, 2, 3 till question number 50. Then again I will take another answer sheet. Then correct question number 1, 2, 3 till 50. So this maybe I can say I am working in a sequential or serial fashion. That is, one after another I will be evaluating. However, let us assume that I have got an instruction from the higher ups saying that now you have to get the results within 10 minutes after the exam. How do I do it? One approach I can follow is I can call or I can request my colleagues to help me in evaluating the papers. Yet, I can also follow another approach. So what I shall do is, I believe you people, all the students, you don't do any mischief to me. So, with that assumption, I will shuffle all the answer sheets and distribute the answer sheets to everyone, such that one person gets one answer sheet. And I will make sure that that answer sheet doesn't belong to him or his friend. Somehow I manage it. And also I already said, I believe you people. So now I go to the blackboard. I'll write question number 1, answer A. What happens? Everyone will be working on question number 1 and verifying whether the answer they are written by the student, is it correct or not? If it is correct, they will correct it. Otherwise, they will mark it as 0. Then I will go to question number 2 and say the answer is C. Now, all the people, all the students will be evaluating the sheets given to them. That is, they will see whether the question number 2 is correct or not in the given sheet to them. Like that, what is happening now? All these people, they are working on this evaluation. And the results may be available within 10 minutes. No doubt about it. Here, this is a good example for parallel task, parallel computing. All of you, all the students, they are slaves to me. When I say question number 1, you are correcting question number 1 only. When I say question number 2, you are correcting question number 2 only. However, only thing is, everyone will be working on the sheet that I call the data. The same instruction, everyone will be working, but on different data items. In computer science, this structure of computing is called as single instruction. and multiple data type. So it is just a good example for parallel computers. So these computers, they are not von Neumann type, non-von Neumann type. So especially this type of computer architectures are very much required for the development of real-time systems, where the system has to respond to you even within 500 nanoseconds. Let's consider a small example. Monitoring enemy aircrafts. So if your system anti-gun, if it did not respond within 500 nanoseconds to an enemy aircraft, then that enemy aircraft may come and bombard you completely. So thus the anti-aircraft management system, they should work, they should give entire response, entire service within 500 nanoseconds. That is, maybe within that fellow comes and bombards us, our cantonment, the anti-gun should do automatic action. In these applications, we do require to manipulate, process lot of information, lot of radar data. So there may be a single processor may not be adequate, thus we will go for more than one processor. We don't care about money, etc. We care about the response time. So thus, in this type of applications, we require very fast response, thus we may employ parallel computers. So there are some computers, parallel computers developed in India, such as Param Padma by the CDAC Pune. Especially some application like atmospheric modeling, weather modeling, tsunami warning systems, aircraft monitoring systems, all these things, they require very fast response times. If the system doesn't respond within that time, some catastrophic things may take place. So thus, we do spend a lot of our money in developing special computer architectures for those applications. However, in this course, we will not be talking much about, or we will not be talking anything about programming such a type of computers. Whatever we are going to talk in this course are confined to serial computers only. So thus, in summary, most of our discussion of this course is confined to serial computer programming, that also C language program.
In this video, we have understood about what is our important parts of computers, what is von Neumann architecture, Harvard architecture, variety of low-level machine language instructions, data bus, address bus, interrupt, supercomputers, etc. Thank you.